I watched his chest rise weakly, strained like an overused accordion, ribs protruding beneath the pale hospital gown. Sam lay beneath thin sheets, lips cracked, face sunken. The man who once lifted me off the ground in laughter now weighed less than our wedding cake. His fingers twitched but held no warmth. Machines whispered steady reminders of fading time. The room smelled of antiseptic, wilting flowers, and regret. I held his hand loosely. He didn't squeeze back. His breath rasped, like leaves brushing pavement in a dying wind. Somewhere in the hallway, a gurney screeched. I leaned closer, brushed his forehead with trembling lips. "I love you," I said, and meant it. But love doesn't always mean loyalty. Not anymore. Sam didn't respond. His eyes had been closed for hours. Doctors said he wouldn't last the week. Family had already flown in, said their last goodbyes, and flown back out. I'd stayed. Sat through the slow decay. Watched my husband vanish day by day, breath by breath. I picked up my purse. Crimson leather. Too bold, perhaps, for a hospital. I'd worn a dress. Tight black, not quite mourning. My heels clicked against the tile as I stepped away from the bed. His room felt heavier with every footstep I took toward the door. My throat tightened, but no tears came. I'd cried them all in January. Outside, dusk arrived in violet tones. The air was sharp, cleansing. I paused beneath the entryway, closing my coat tightly. Cold air danced across my collarbone. I didn't rush. I didn't stall. I simply walked, until voices carried through the automatic doors. "She doesn't look sad," a nurse said. The other replied, "You'd think she just left a party, not her dying husband." I stopped walking. Their laughter was soft, cruel, unaware I still stood within earshot. I didn't turn around. I didn't correct them. They didn't know about the nights I sat alone in that room while Sam moaned in confusion. They hadn't seen how his mind had unraveled. How he'd called me by his sister's name. How he'd screamed in dreams that weren't dreams. And they didn't know about Adrien. He was nowhere near this hospital, and yet I could already feel him, like a tide pulling me back into something I'd sworn I'd never crave again. Passion. Heat. Want. I used to feel guilty. Now I only felt alive. As I stepped off the curb and into the night, I left pity behind. I left the scent of bleach and death. I left the role of devoted wife locked in room 208 with a dying man who hadn't touched me in over a year. Love is complicated. Lust less so. And I wasn't done feeling things yet. Adrien's apartment wasn't far, an expensive downtown loft tucked between glass towers and reckless city dreams. I buzzed up, fingers still numb from cold, guilt, or anticipation. Hard to say. He answered before the second ring. No questions. No judgment. The elevator climbed silently. Each floor it passed felt like a layer of skin peeled away. I stepped out on 12, the door already open. There he stood, barefoot, shirtless, whiskey in hand, lean muscle catching the dim golden light. His dark eyes caught mine, holding them like velvet ropes. He didn't say anything. Just pulled me inside. Lips found lips, fingers roamed curves, no hesitation. He kissed me the way Sam used to, before sickness stole everything. Before hospice visits, insurance meetings, 4 bags, adult diapers. Adrien's hunger didn't ask for permission. Mine didn't need it. My coat dropped. He caught me at the waist and lifted me like weightlessness. Our mouths collided again, urgent, unspoken things pouring out between gasps and groans. We ended up tangled in his sheets, breathless, flushed, drenched in everything I'd buried beneath widowhood in waiting. Every thrust felt like rebellion. Every moan, a sin I didn't regret. After, I lay on my back, heartbeat still racing. The ceiling fan spun slowly above, slicing air like a clock marking minutes I wasn't sure I deserved. Adrien turned toward me. "You okay?" he asked, voice softer than it should have been. I nodded, still staring upward. "He's not gone yet." Silence stretched between us, thick and uneven. "I don't care," he said eventually. "You've already left." I glanced over at him, shadows tracing the lines of his collarbone, jaw, the edge of a tattoo I hadn't noticed before. He always looked like something unfinished, sharp, beautiful, dangerous. He never asked for more than I gave, never needed explanations. Maybe that's why I kept coming back. We'd met 8 months ago. A fundraiser. I was in a black dress. He was speaking at the podium. He wasn't famous, but he could have been. A voice like smoke and thunder. I laughed at something he said about poetry, and he found me in the crowd later. The first drink turned into 3. The hotel suite was his idea. I didn't stop him. He never knew I was married. Not at first. But I told him eventually. One night, weeks into it, after the 4th time we met at his place and stayed until dawn. You should leave him, he'd said then. He's dying, I replied. Adrien had just stared at me for a long time, then kissed me harder than he ever had before. Now, lying beside him again, I wondered whether any of this could exist beyond borrowed hours. He lit a cigarette, exhaled sideways. I took a drag. The smoke filled something inside me that grief had left hollow. I wasn't ready to return to that hospital bed, and I wasn't sure I ever would. Morning sunlight sliced across Adrien's bed, warm and unbothered by moral weight. I woke before he did, wrapped in unfamiliar stillness. His arm draped across my waist like a claim I hadn't agreed to yet. I stared at the ceiling, counting the cracks in the plaster until I remembered there weren't any. Only my own fractures. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. A single notification. No change. Still unresponsive. Sent by my sister-in-law, Emma. Dutiful, innocent, unknowing. I hadn't answered her last 3 texts. I didn't now. Adrien stirred behind me. Work today. I shook my head. Not going in. You okay? He asked again, like last night's version of me hadn't already answered. No, I said. But that hasn't stopped me before. I rose, found my panties on a chair, his shirt on the floor. Everything felt stolen, wrong, yet more alive than the past year's slow-motion tragedy. Adrien followed me to the kitchen, where coffee brewed like nothing had happened. He leaned on the counter, watching. Are you gonna be there when he goes? The question hit like a slap. Not because of cruelty, but its clarity. I don't know, I said. You should, he murmured. That made me laugh, bitter and sudden. Why? So I can hold his hand while he forgets my name again? Adrien didn't respond. Just poured coffee into 2 mismatched mugs and passed me one. His silence wasn't empty. It was deliberate, like he was weighing the weight of saying something irreversible. He wouldn't blame you for living, he said eventually. He didn't know Sam. Didn't know the man who once woke me at 3 a.m. to dance in the kitchen because our song came on the radio. Didn't know the man who built cribs, fixed leaky faucets, painted our bedroom green because I once said it reminded me of Ireland. Didn't know the man who forgot my birthday last year and screamed at the nurse who called me by name. But I knew both versions. I'd loved them both. And I was grieving someone who hadn't died yet. I don't think I can do both, I whispered. Be his wife and still be myself. Adrien stepped closer. Then choose. But don't lie about it. His honesty stabbed deeper than any accusation. I walked to the window, watched people drift through the streets, coffee cups in hand, unaware that I was standing behind glass contemplating whether love owed anything to the dying. My phone buzzed again. Another update. Another reminder. I couldn't hide here forever. Eventually, someone would call me to sign something, identify something, bury something. But for now, I watched the world move on, as if death weren't perched on my shoulder whispering countdowns. And Adrien? He just stood behind me, shirtless, quiet, waiting for me to either stay or go. I returned to the hospital 3 days later. Sam hadn't died. That surprised everyone except me. He lingered, always stubborn, always slow to let go of anything. He was still in room 208. Same position. Same smell. Same machines murmuring their sad lullaby. This time, I didn't dress to provoke. No makeup. No heels. Just jeans, a hoodie, sneakers still damp from last night's rain. No one looked twice at me. No nurse whispered. No judgment followed me like perfume. He opened his eyes when I entered. Barely. "Hey," I said, voice tight. His lips moved, but no sound emerged. I sat beside him. My hand found his almost by reflex. Bones. That's all he was now. Bones and memory. And something in his sunken eyes. Something I hadn't expected. Recognition. I swallowed. "You know who I am?" A faint nod. Or a twitch. Either way, my throat closed. I almost cried. Almost. We sat in that silence for what felt like hours. No machines screamed. No nurses interrupted. It was just the two of us and everything we hadn't said. Finally, I spoke. "I've been seeing someone. There." Just like that. His lips didn't part. No reaction. But I kept going. I didn't plan to. It just happened. I was lonely. You were slipping. And I needed something real. Something warm. Something alive. Still nothing from him. Maybe he hadn't understood. Maybe he had. Maybe he already knew and was just waiting for me to say it aloud. I blinked back tears. "I'm sorry. There was so much more I could have said. That I never stopped loving him. That I hated what illness had done to us. That I hated myself for not being stronger. For craving someone else's hands, mouth, voice. For smiling while he suffered. But none of that mattered now. Because as I sat there, I realized something I hadn't expected to find. Peace." He blinked slowly, as if granting me permission to leave. Or forgiveness. Or maybe it was just involuntary. At this point, I didn't trust my interpretations of anything. Emma walked in 20 minutes later. She smiled, relieved to see me. "I'm so glad you're here." I nodded, stood, kissed Sam's forehead one last time. Then turned to Emma. "I need some time." She looked confused. "You just got here." "I know. But I've already said what I came to say." I walked out, the walls seeming narrower than before. My footsteps didn't echo. My heart didn't race. I didn't go to Adrien's. I went home. Our home. The house with the green bedroom and the photo albums and the history soaked into the floorboard. And I did something harder than cheating, harder than lying. I sat on the couch. And waited to feel either regret. Or nothing at all. The silence in our house was louder than the machines in Sam's room. I moved through it like a ghost, touching walls, wiping dust from untouched corners. His shoes still sat neatly near the front door. His watch lay on the nightstand. The green bedroom hadn't changed. But I had. I didn't call Adrien. Not that day. Not the next. I didn't know what I was waiting for. Judgment, absolution, punishment. Maybe all of it. Grief is a strange, shape-shifting thing. Mine didn't wear black. It didn't sob uncontrollably into a pillow. It crept in through quiet moments. An unopened bottle of aftershave. His favorite mug in the sink. A dent in the pillow beside mine. Everywhere, absence. On the third night, Adrien showed up unannounced. He stood on the porch, drenched in rain, eyes stormier than the sky behind him. "I waited," he said. "I know. You disappeared. I had to." He stepped inside without permission. The smell of rain followed him, familiar, intoxicating. He looked around at the space that wasn't his, photos of vacations, souvenirs, the wedding picture where Sam's tie was crooked and I had red roses in my hair. "Was this all real?" Adrien asked, voice barely above a whisper. "Yes. And us." I looked at him, tired, raw. That was real too. Just different. He walked into the kitchen like he belonged there, paused by the fridge, then turned back to face me. "Are you going to choose?" "I already did," I said. He waited. "I chose not to lie anymore." "That's not a choice. That's a retreat." "Maybe. Or maybe it's the only honest thing I've done in months." We stared at each other across a floor tiled with memories. He stepped closer. Close enough to touch. His fingers hovered near my arm, uncertain. I didn't move. I don't want to be your secret, he whispered. You never were, I said, truth sharp between my teeth. But you can't be my future either. Not yet. I'm not asking for forever. I looked away. Then why are you here? He didn't answer right away. Just took my hand, held it between his, warm and callous. He didn't kiss me. Didn't beg. He just stood there, holding a version of me I didn't recognize anymore. I wanted to see if you were real, he finally said. And you are. Unfortunately. We laughed softly, bitterly, like two people watching something beautiful burn. He left without another word. That night I didn't sleep. I sat in the green bedroom, lights off, wrapped in Sam's blanket. Every inch of the room felt heavy, as if the house itself waited for me to admit what I'd done. But I didn't cry, because sorrow wasn't the sharpest thing inside me anymore. It was longing, and I had no idea what for. The call came just after 4 a.m. A nurse's voice, soft, tired, practiced. She didn't say sorry, or he's gone, right away, only that I should come. Quiet urgency filled the silence between her words. I didn't ask questions. I just dressed in the dark and drove through sleeping streets, headlights carving tunnels in fog. Room 208 smelled the same. Floral disinfectant and inevitability. Sam was still warm. That unsettled me more than anything. His face looked peaceful. Not twisted in pain. Not blank with confusion. Just still. As though he were dreaming about something he hadn't told anyone. Something better. I stood beside him for a long time. No tears came. I took his hand again, cold this time, truly. I ran my thumb across the knuckles, remembering how those hands once built a crib, held mine through labor, stirred pasta sauce every Sunday night. I whispered, "You can rest now." The words came from somewhere deep, somewhere untouched by lust, betrayal, or guilt. He didn't answer. Didn't need to. A nurse entered quietly, clipboard in hand. She nodded to me, gentle, reverent. "We'll give you space. Take all the time you need." I nodded back, mute. Time. That word again. It had stretched and twisted so much over the past year. And now it collapsed. 23 years with Sam. 8 months with Adrien. One lifetime burned down and the other still smoldering. I left the hospital as dawn broke. The sky was pink, absurdly beautiful, as if the universe had the audacity to glow when everything inside me felt gray. I didn't go home. I didn't go to Adrien's. I drove without direction until the sun sat fully above the horizon. Then I pulled over by a lake I hadn't visited since college, where Sam once took me on a picnic, nervous and awkward, before he knew how to love me right. I sat on a bench, shoes off, feet grazing damp grass. Birds chirped. Boats drifted lazily in the distance. And for the first time in months, maybe years, I sat with nothing to do. No lies to tell. No hands to hold. No identities to juggle. Just me. Alone. Alive. Eventually, my phone buzzed. A message from Adrien. "You okay?" I stared at the screen. Then, slowly, I typed. "He's gone." No emoji. No punctuation. I didn't hit send. Instead, I locked the phone and let it fall into my lap. Because this wasn't the moment to explain anything. This was the moment between endings and beginnings. Between breath and memory. Between the woman I had been and the one I hadn't met yet. I didn't know where I would go next. But for now I watched the water ripple, endless, open. And I let myself feel something that wasn't shame. Not love. Not grief. Just stillness. At last.